How's it going, guys? So I don't know if you can tell, but I finally changed that light bulb from a couple of videos ago, and it's brighter. It's a lot brighter in here. So you can finally see this beautiful face in perfect clarity. Anyway, moving on. I have a review for you today. It's been a while, but thanks for hanging in there. I have a review for you today, and it's my first PS4 review. And no, it is not going to be Killzone. It is not going to be Knack. Um, I know a lot of people, you know, are hot and heavy on those games since they're the exclusives. Um, I have also beaten AC4. That was the first game that I actually beat. But I haven't gotten around to the review yet because I'm trying. Man, it's a tough game to review. I haven't gotten all my thoughts together quite yet on that game. So, yeah, but I'd like to do it soon. That way I don't get too rusty on or forgetful of the things that really bugged me or the things I really liked about the game. So, yeah. But today, I do have a different review for you, and it is a PlayStation 4 game. No, it's not Resogun or Contrast either. It is Battlefield 4. And I was tempted to do AC first, but tell you the truth, most of my time on the PS4 has probably been spent on this, and I really like this game. I liked 3 a lot, but I had that on the PS3. I played it on console, so um, it had limitations. It had a good number of limitations on the PS3, but this game, now that it's on the next gen consoles and it's running at 60 frames a second, and man, I cannot understate how big of a difference this is with the 60 frames a second. It is buttery smooth. I mean, if you don't mind a controller, you're looking at neck and neck with PC performance here. Not only that, the visuals are, I mean, it looks like maybe like medium to high PC settings. Not going to look like ultra settings, but if you were to, you would have to really put them side by side in order to tell a difference. Like you couldn't go back and forth and be like, okay, yeah, that looks better. Yeah, that looks better. No, the visuals aren't that different, or they're not that noticeably better on the PC. And I've been hearing that the game is very difficult to run at a stable frame rate with high settings on PC, even with a beast ass rig. Like we're talking NVIDIA Titans or 790s and stuff like, or 780s, 790s, whatever. So anyway, yeah, I have been digging the game a lot, but and you know, like I said, the 60 frames a second has been a huge improvement for this series. It is something that Call of Duty, and I don't want to compare the two a whole lot, as many people like to do. They like to do like a head-to-head showdown kind of thing, but man, Call of Duty just deserves to die. Like, after playing this game and seeing what Ghost has to offer, I didn't buy Ghost, but I've seen it here and there, and I've done a lot of research on the game because there's not too many launch games out there right now available for my PlayStation 4, and I was, trying to consider, each of them equally, and even though, I'm not big on Call of Duties and I wouldn't normally buy it, Ghost had, I had a bigger library to choose from. I just, I did some research on it because there's just not that much to choose from. And even then, I reached the same conclusion, that I would have on any other platform. It's just not worth it. It's just not my kind of game. It's a little bit too run and gun. You die in like 2 bullets. It doesn't have bullet drop off. It's not deliberate. There's very little depth, and like you put it next to Battlefield 4, and it just feels so shallow, and all the guns feel like bullet hoses, and it's just such a shallow experience. But like that, but that's just to say that basically, let's leave it at Call of Duty is not my kind of game. If you're really a fan of that, run and gun versus the kind of stop and pop nature of Battlefield, then hey, you know, personal preference. Variety is the spice of life. So, but yeah, anyway, it's running at 60 frames. When I'm able to get into a game and it seems to run very good. The graphics are beautiful, and yes, I did actually play the campaign. Um, and the campaign is almost when they shine the most because you got these great epic set pieces going on, and it's just a real pleasure to look at, especially the facial animations and stuff like that. Or the facial, and not only the animations but the texture on the faces they just look top notch. Um, so that being said, I did play the campaign, and I actually surprisingly enjoyed it quite a bit more than I thought I would. Part of the reason, though, I think that is because of my expectations going into it. I mean, we know what we're getting from these kinds of games. So I went into it thinking this story is going to be super militaristic. It's going to be really throwaway. They're going to be using a bunch of abbreviations that I don't give a shit to. I don't know, and I don't give a shit to know. Um, and that's kind of the trap that I think a lot of these modern military shooters fall into, and even like Splinter Cell and stuff like that, is that the dialogue between characters is so you almost have to be in the military to get what they're saying. Like I know a couple of them, but like HVTs and MREs and stuff like I get a little bit of it, but man, when they're just every other word out of their mouth is just some military lingo, man, the story just loses me. I lose interest, and I just want to get to the next, you know, linear fucking hallway sequence. I don't know what is the word I'm looking for. Shooting gallery. I want to get to the next shooting gallery. Um, and this game, I don't. I think it's a good middle ground. You still get a lot of that, military. It's gonna please somebody in the military. I feel like. They're going to play it and enjoy it, and they're going to have a better understanding of some of the things that go on in it because they're in the military. But for somebody that's, totally removed from that world like me, I did go to a military high school for 2 years, but nonetheless, I'm basically as civilian as they come. But from my perspective, I was able to understand the story, understand the dialogue, and all the characters. It has a really good squad dynamic, and they really build the characters in this 4 to 5 hour campaign as good as they can. Um, and these guys are the characters. I mean, this is some really good voice acting here. I mean, this can compete with some of the best of them. I mean, yeah, The Last of Us might be slightly better. Batman Arkham Origin or Arkham City might be slightly better. You have classic voice actors doing those. You got Mark Hamill and stuff as the Joker. It would be hard to put this up against games like that, but it's just maybe a notch below. I mean, we're talking this is great voice acting here. Um, and it really spills over into the quality of the characterization. These characters are very believable because the guys that acted them portrayed them so well that they just become like people. And usually after I finish one of these campaigns, I notice that I cannot remember a single guy's name from the game. Besides, what was it, Price or whatever from Call of Duty? I don't remember anybody from Call of Duty. And the only reason I remember him is because he was in like 5 games. You know what I'm saying? So I actually remember every guy's name from this game. Pack, or you play Wrecker, and then there was Pack, Irish, and Hannah. I even remember some of the other guys. That was Coven. You play a mission with this guy named Coven, and I forgot your the other guy that was your squad leader at the beginning of the game. Is like Grim or something. No, that's from Splinter Cell. It's something else. But anyway, yeah, I remembered all of their names, and they all kind of left an impact on me. And that's something I did not expect. Matter of fact, the first time I played through the game, um, it left me thinking about it well after I finished the campaign, and that is always a good sign. If I'm thinking about it, that like if it's leaving the way a campaign sometimes can leave that lasting impact on you, usually says to me that it's a good game, or a good campaign. Um, And yes, if you did catch me say it, I did play through this game twice. I did say the first time I played through it. Normally, I don't play through many games twice. The last time I played through a game twice was over 2 years ago. Um, about 2 years ago, maybe not over, but it was when Mass Effect 3 was coming out. I replayed Mass Effect 2. That's how long it's been. The reason I played through this game twice, and this is the biggest flaw in this game, is it is unstable as hell. It is so unstable. When the PS4 first released, day one, it would take upwards of 10 tries to get past the main menu. Um, you could not join a multiplayer match. You could not even start the campaign. And when you did eventually get it to work, the server browser would be so limited. You could know for a fact that not all the servers were properly, appearing on your browser, because if you continue to refresh it, eventually you'd get a crazy amount of servers, and then the next time you refresh it, it'd be back to like 2 or 3. Then you do it another 10 times, it'd be back to 10. It's so messed up. Well, EA then came out and said, "Well, it's Sony's fault. They put this new firmware in, and the game, it's just not made to run on this firmware. We didn't expect it, and it's super unstable because of Sony." Well, Sony released a new firmware update after they made that statement, and it fixed quite a bit. It fixed quite a bit. However, the game still has problems to this day, and we're talking what, 3, 2, 3? I want to say 2 weeks after launch, and 64-player matches do not function almost at all. I managed to get into one 64-player server, and the player count when I actually started it up was in maybe around 5. It was like 2 on 3. It said, like, when I joined the server, it said like 55 out of 64 players, and I was like, sweet, I'm finally going to be able to see the 64-player combat on console and see how it works on the PS4. When I finally got in, there was like 5 people in the server. So 64-player combat, needless to say, does not work. As far as I have been able to tell, if you have gotten into one, that's great, but most of the people that I've talked to, and in my experiences, 64-player Battlefield 4 on PS4 does not function. But that's not to say that the firmware update Sony did not fix anything. It is currently far more stable than it was at launch. So EA probably was a little bit right in saying that yes, the game is a lot more unstable because of this firmware. However, after Sony fixed their end of the issues, the game continues to have its own. So, man, I don't. It sucks. It really does. That leads me to my campaign story. So, I was on the Suez mission. I don't know if anybody's played the campaign, but this is the last mission. And I was at the part where you driving the motorboat to the enemy's boat. Let's just put it that way. And that is the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game. Okay? And the game, when I'm doing this, the game crashes and it corrupts my save. I was so pissed off. Like, the game had started crashing less and less now since the firmware update for Sony came out. So I figured, you know what, now's a good time to finally try the campaign and get my feet wet in that. So I went ahead and did it, and about halfway through the campaign, my game crashed, and I was like, oh no. And I went and checked out the save file and said, no, it's fine. The game's not corrupted. So I booted it up, and sure enough, it was still there. My progress had been saved, and I was, very pleased about that. Well, I continued on with my file, and it crashed at the last 2 to 3 minutes of the game. So I didn't get to see the ending or anything, and it wiped my save. I was back to square one. So what I did is replayed the whole damn thing. It's not a long campaign. You're talking 4 or 5 hours. But, still, like, this isn't the type of game you really want to play over again. Luckily, I enjoyed it enough to, for it not to be, like, punishing. But, I wanted that, achievement that said, you beat the game. And I also like to have beaten save files on my console. So what I had to do the second time around is quit out of the game every time I beat a level, copy my file to a USB drive, and then boot it up again and play the next level. And it was really annoying to have to do that. Kind of, lowered the level of immersion while playing the single player, but I'd already played it anyways, and you got to do what you got to do. I mean, I wanted to see the ending for myself. I wanted that beaten save file on. I wanted all those dog tags and the weapons and stuff. So I went through and I beat it again. You got to do what you got to do. But I'm not going to cut them any slack for that. Yeah, like that. This is impacting my opinion of the game. I should not have had to go through this, especially with it being 2 weeks after launch. Like, if they were having all these issues, their engineering team or whatever, the developers should have been on this shit like around the clock. And most recently, I've heard that EA has issued a public apology, and they've even gone and they've get this, they offered a public apology about the state that Battlefield 4 is in and how unstable it is on, every platform. This is happening on Xbox One, on PS4, and on PC. So they offered this public apology, and part of that was them giving you a 100% XP boost on Battlefield 4, and it's kind of like you're giving us an XP boost on a game that is basically broken. Like, I mean, now it is currently playable. It is playable in its current state, but it just, like, the game is fucked up. Like, and you're giving us something to help us play a game that's, screwed up. Like, well, how about you just get on that patch? Dude, take the focus it took to give us this XP boost and focus it on that patch, because that's what I'm waiting for. I want my 64-man battles, and I want a game that doesn't wipe my save, every, so many times I start it up. I don't want to have to be scared to boot that game up that, every time I do it, that it's going to wipe that save. It's stupid. I mean, I backed it up on my USB drive. I mean, you can be damn sure I did that, but still,